What's going on, guys? Graham Giason Matthews here with Fanside. It's dailyddt.com. And today we're talking one half of the Impact World Tag Team Champions and one of the co-hosts on a brand new show on the Game Plus Network, Dangle Bet Selly. I think I pronounced that correctly. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Eric Young, EY, what's going on, man?
No, that's it, man. You nailed it. So dangle is like an inside hockey term of stick handling or moving around a guy. Bet, that's self-explanatory. And Selly is like it's a way hockey players say celebration. Oh, good Selly. So there's a whole vernacular inside the hockey world, just like the wrestling world. So yeah, Dangle Bet Selly. That's the name of the show.
That's what I was. One of my questions for it was like, what the inspiration behind the show, what the inspiration behind the name of the show was, and that makes a lot of sense. I'm not too knowledgeable about sports in general, just being a wrestling fan. That's just what I am, I guess. But that makes a lot of sense. So I appreciate that. But Eric Young, what's going on, man? Thanks for taking the time today.
Yeah, good to be here, man. Yeah, it's things are good. It's been a wild ride, and the hockey world is something I'm very passionate about. And having this new show has been a really cool thing for me. It's years and years in the making, but it's we're kind of building it every week, and it's something that people have really taken to. So it's exciting for me.
So we just started. We're speaking on Wednesday, May 4th. Just started last night, right? May 3rd, airing new episodes Tuesdays, Thursdays, 10 a.m. Eastern. Is that correct?
That is correct. So we've been doing the show, the same show all season.
Okay.
We were with The Athletic 2 years ago. We were with Mayo Media Network the year before, and then FTN hired both me and my co-host Chris Meany to come over and do some hockey content for them. FTN it's a digital brand, but it's kind of like this new, young, up and coming place where all the young kind of rising stars in the fantasy space, whether that's basketball or football or baseball, golf, UFC, everyone that's anybody in the fantasy world, they were snatching up. And me and Chris, there were kind of two people kind of prominent in the hockey space. Not a lot of people talking hockey, and it's definitely the redheaded stepchild of the sports world, especially in America. Not as much as in Canada, but in America, and that's where the numbers are. But yeah, I've loved hockey my whole life. Crazy involved in fantasy sports and fantasy hockey, and now having this kind of fantasy centric betting. Obviously, sports gambling is taking over the entire world. I mean, unless you've been living under a rock, you know about DraftKings and you know about FanDuel and PointsBet and MGM and all these other people. Multi-billion dollar industry, and now me and Chris are trying to get our piece of the pie.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I feel like this is such a perfect fit for you, knowing that you've been doing the hockey stuff for such a long time now, doing the talk show sort of stuff, which is cool. And this is just an extension of what you were already doing. And it feels like it's a nice break from, I mean, you've been wrestling for years and years. You're obviously a seasoned vet in the game. For you, doing stuff like this and kind of doing something totally different from the wrestling space. And you're still very active, obviously, as you said, one half of the current Impact World Tag Team Champions. Is that a nice part of it as well, to kind of have it be such a difference breather from the wrestling sort of things?
Yeah, I mean, I love wrestling.
For sure.
And it's, I would say, other than my family, it's the first thing I loved in my life. And I don't think that that's a stretch at all. I don't think that's made up. I think that that nails it on the head. Is like, it was the first thing that I was crazy passionate about, excited to consume it, and just lived for reading about it and watching it and thinking about it. And I mean, at this point, I mean, I still do that often. It's still a love of mine. It's still something that I love to do and I love to be part of. I'm proud of it, but I've always had interest outside of it, always, whether it was, I did the fishing show with Animal Planet. I've been doing tons of stuff with fantasy football. I did some stuff with ESPN. I wrote for The Athletic, hockey fantasy stuff, and did a podcast for them. Highly involved in the fantasy football world and like high level expert tournaments and crazy, big money leagues and stuff that from people that are considered professionals. And I don't think I would consider myself professional. I would, an insane enthusiast is what I would say that I am. It's not how I pay my bills, but it is something that I do a ton of on the side. And I'm super passionate about. And the hockey thing is no different. It's hockey is my number one sport. I love football too, but hockey is my number one. I grew up in Canada, wanted to play in the NHL. Found out, pretty early on in high school that I was not a very good hockey player, but I still play to this day. I actually have a game tonight, 9 p.m. puck drop here in Nashville, Tennessee for a rec league. So yeah, looking forward to that.
That's super cool. Have you always been based in Nashville with the TNA connection?
Yeah, so I moved here actually before starting to work for them. I
Oh, wow.
wanted to move down here and make it easier for them to make a decision to hire me because I knew they were interested. But
Hmm.
being in living in Canada and then having to get me a visa and all these other things was super difficult. That's another story that we could go down that when we have more time. But it's a pretty wild story. But I ended up living in Nashville in 2004, and I fell in love with the city, man. And I'm not an original, but I've been here long enough now that I can complain about people from California and Chicago and New York moving here and driving up the house prices and driving up the taxes and then and creating traffic everywhere.
Yeah.
It is an amazing city though, man. I've lived here since 2004 and I could live anywhere because I fly for a living, travel for a living. And, but I choose Nashville.
That's
It's
awesome.
one of my favorite cities in the entire world.
You didn't have to relocate to Florida for the NXT tenure, or no?
No, I was
Oh,
one of the
thank
lucky
God.
ones. They never asked me to.
That's awesome.
When I had my meeting with Hunter, I said, if it's something that's required, I'll do it. But
Mhm.
I said to him, if I'm talking, Eric DePaul right now, I'm past doing Hindu squats and back rolls. I've done that. I've been on TV for 15 years, and if you want me to come down and do Hindu squats and back rolls, I'll do them just as good as anybody there. But I have a life here. I'm married. My wife has a good job here. I have a beautiful home, and I had no interest in living in Orlando. And I was one of the lucky ones that they never asked me to do that. So
That's awesome. I feel like nowadays, I mean, they're not, I guess, hiring wrestlers anymore. I guess it's all athletes and
well,
stuff like that. But I guess we're past that phase.
and
I guess,
and an interesting choice, but yeah, that seems to be the recipe.
yeah, no, it's interesting. I feel like he kind of arrived at the perfect time. It was actually weirdly enough, I think today, what is it, 2022? 6 years ago today, I think you made your NXT debut on May 4th, 2016, on television anyway. Obviously,
Yep.
it was taped prior to that point, but the coincidence of talking here today. But going back to the hockey thing real quick, going back to the sports and everything you mentioned with the talk shows, I feel like you're not a rare breed, but there's not many wrestlers that do that sort of thing as far as have a completely different life outside of wrestling as far as the sports talk shows go. I know Miz has like the fantasy football stuff. He does that sort of stuff. Renee Young does that sort of stuff.
I played a couple years with him. I smoked him every year. You can ask him when you talk to him. He's a good dude, man. Good, really good guy though.
Did you know him before getting to WWE and doing that sort of stuff or not?
Yeah, we had talked through the fantasy football space, had kind of gone back and forth on social media and stuff like that. So, I mean, obviously I knew who he was. I don't know if he knew who I was through wrestling, but he definitely knew who I was through the fantasy football space.
That's cool.
We played in a couple leagues together, and he was really good at it at one point. And he just got so busy doing, television shows and everything else with their crazy schedule. I was basically unemployed and sitting at home. There was no way he was going to beat me. I had nothing but time on my hands.
That's funny. I feel like Rollins was in that space too. I know he's an avid football fan too.
Yeah, he was in the league too. It's a who's who of the wrestling world in that, and I still play in that league with those guys. So it's cool. It's to keep my ties there, and wrestling is such a small world, especially with the performers. Like you just meet everybody at some point or another. You cross paths, and working for TNA, and then working with NXT, and then the main roster, and now back at Impact. Like you just kind of cross paths with everybody, and that's cool for me. I love meeting new people and experiencing things. I'm a very experiential person, and I think that's where like doing the stuff outside of wrestling. I love wrestling, but I don't want it to consume my life 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So there's all kinds of other things that I'm into and doing, and it's cool having the blue check mark and being a TV personality already. Mm-hmm. I have this huge built-in audience, and companies are attracted to that, and they should be. The Hogan originally, obviously The Rock has done it in another stratosphere, but those guys have the same tool belt that I have. I'm not comparing myself to Hulk Hogan or The Rock. I mean, I'm not. But what I'm saying is they came from the same industry I came from, and have proven, no one more so than The Rock has proven that it gives you a skill set that's second to none. And he says it, and I say it too. I will not be outworked. I've done 1,000 things 10 times worse for half the money that you've done. So yeah, I just won't be outworked. And that's something that he always says. And it's very, very true.
That's awesome. I feel like with that sort of stuff too, I mean, you've been doing it for so long, as you mentioned, you've been doing it for a while and you're so passionate about it, which is super cool to see. Was there ever a point in doing all of this stuff that there was not an adjustment period, like where you had to find your footing? You really felt like you were, I mean, obviously doing wrestling, you're already kind of on TV anyway, with like the Animal Planet show and stuff like that, there might be a different adjustment period, if that makes sense. Like, did you have to find your
Oh,
footing, that
sure.
sort of thing?
Yeah. I mean, it is a different world. I mean, the
Yeah.
reality is there is nothing like pro wrestling in the world. You know, it's for me, and that's why what I love about it is it is sport, and it is acting, and it is improv, and it is marketing, and it is sales, and it is all these things, and it's all of these things at the exact same time. You know, I did community theater, and I've done on stage performances in high school and after high school. There's lots of elements of live theater that it takes from, but at the same time, like, you don't practice it like you practice theater, because it's dangerous. And it is sport where it is physical, and you have to be athletic and have to be in shape and have to do all these things, but you're not technically competing against each other.
Yeah.
But you are. You know, it is a beautiful, weird kind of singular thing. And what that does is gives you tons of skills in all those things, you know. And improv was a huge part of the fishing show that I did, but also, you know, being in front of a camera and being comfortable. And I've always had that, I think, as a kind of like a natural, where I don't think about the camera being there. I'm just being me, is for lack of a better term. I'm just kind of doing what I would do anyways, and they just point the camera at me. I don't think about it being there. I don't worry about it being there, even though, you know, oftentimes there's millions of people on the other side of it.
Yeah.
So it's been a really cool journey for me, man. And wrestling has opened a ton of doors for me, and I will forever be grateful for wrestling and wrestling fans and people who have supported anything I've done.
Wrestling, football, fishing, hockey, are there any like hidden interests or talents that you have that your fans don't know about?
No, I mean, I think that all of these things are things I'm passionate about. I love cinema. I love movies, and I was in I've done a couple commercials, and I've done a couple things here and there, small stuff, but that's something that I've always been interested in. I would love to be in an action movie and do my own stunts. I would grow my crazy beard out again and be a bad guy in a Western, you know, like I still, that's something that I aspire to try and do. It's hard when you have 3 or 4 different jobs, you know, and you play hockey and you work out and you're married and you're, you know, being pulled in 1,000 directions and flying all over the place. You run out of time. You know, there's only 24 hours in a day. I don't require a ton of sleep. I've always been good that way, but I do have to sleep sometimes. So that makes my time very limited.
That sounds like a Vince McMahon type thing. He was saying on Pat McAfee show that he wakes up at like 1:30 in the morning or something.
Yeah,
I don't even know how that's possible.
He's a bona fide crazy person for sure. And I've said this in other things, and he's not my favorite person that I've worked for, but I have nothing but respect for Vince McMahon. He is a tireless worker. He envisioned what wrestling could be. And I'm sitting in this amazing house, in this amazing subdivision. I have this amazing life because Vince McMahon refused to accept that wrestling wasn't mainstream, and anybody, you included, have this side thing, and there's AEW doesn't exist, TNA doesn't exist, Ring of Honor doesn't exist. None of those places exist without him. And we all owe him a massive gratitude. And I will always say that he was always kind to me. He was never disrespectful. He just missed, and I told him that in his office, 4 or 5 weeks before I got fired. I said, if you don't have 10 minutes on your 3-hour show for me to do something, then you failed. And I would say it to his face again. And he did. He failed. He failed himself. He failed his company. He failed wrestling fans, and he failed me. Not the first person he missed on, won't be the last. Kenny Omega didn't last 6 months. He's the best wrestler in the world, bell to bell. I don't think it's arguable. And he was there for 6 months and got fired. So they're just busy making billions of dollars. They're not concerned about my opinion or your opinion or anyone's opinion.
Yeah, no, that's just the way the world works. And the quicker people accept that, I mean, I think the easier everything will be. But it is crazy, man. You yourself have had just an amazing last 2 years. You've had a great career in general, but the last 2 years since the departure from WWE, going back to Impact, almost immediately when your 90 days were up, winning the world championship soon after, having a great run there. As the world champion, now one half of the world tag team champions, turning heel. Violent by Design has been great. And you mentioned earlier, I don't think anyone, if they weren't aware of your acting experience before you saying that, it makes complete sense, obviously, with all the characters that you've had over the course of your career, but none better than what you're doing right now in Impact. How have the last 2 years been for you?
Yeah, the last 2 years have been amazing. I've got the word fate tattooed on the inside of my right arm, and it's something that I believe in. And I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I said this in an interview earlier today, and I've said it 1,000 times, and I mean it. I've never had more fun in my 26 plus years of wrestling. You know, it's an amazing place to work. It's an amazing roster. In my opinion, it is minute for minute the best professional wrestling show on TV. It's made by professional wrestlers for professional wrestling people. You know, there's a little bit of something on every show. There's surprises, there's hard hitting matches, there's comedy, there's, you know, there's everything, you know, everything. And it's cool to be part of something like that. I get that we're the, you know, the little fish in the big pond, and that's okay. You know, that's what television is now. You know, it's niche, and it's, if you're into cars or you're into motorcycles, there's a show every hour of every day about cars and motorcycles. So we're competing with that. And the fact that we, you know, get the viewership that we do, and the fact that the sponsors are coming in more and more, the scope and the reach of the company is growing kind of each and every week, each and every month. And that's exciting to be part of, man. It's super cool. And it's like I said, I'm having the most fun I've ever had. Really able to sink my teeth in and do some things, and do things the way I kind of like, and what I think people like as well. Like, I'm not just doing it for myself. Like, I mean, in the end, I'm not the one watching the show. You know what I mean? I'm just the one performing. So I'm always trying to think of different ways to keep it fresh and keep it interesting, and but still, you know, stick to the core values of what I think good wrestling is. And that all comes down to storytelling. There's nothing more important in wrestling, and there never will be. And there's tons of ways of doing that, but every second of every time someone sees me, that's an opportunity to tell my story, and I don't take any of it lightly.
I mean, especially the promo, I would say you cut right before, what was it, the March event, Sacrifice. It was on the last Impact before. I know you were retweeting the praise and stuff like that. It was a fantastic promo, probably one of the best that I've seen of yours in the 20 years I've been watching your work. It was great. And like you said, I feel like Impact right now, not even just because I'm talking to you right now, I think people need to stop sleeping on Impact as far as like one of the best weekly wrestling products out there. I mean, it's crazy to looking at the talent roster, having originals such as yourself there. I mean, I know you said you don't consider, oh no, you were talking about Nashville originals, but obviously you're a TNA original. Having yourself on the roster, and then everyone else that's come in the last 6 months, people that have come and gone in like a good way, not in like bad terms, but like people that are only there for like 6 months to do a storyline, wrap up that storyline, move on to something else. And I think having this open border policy, so to speak, between all the companies, and Impact really is the forbidden door. I mean, working with all these promotions makes it that much better. So you as a performer, seeing all these companies working together, AEW, Ring of Honor now, and Impact being, I mean, even there was an Impact, you know, Mickie James was the Impact Women's Champion, the Knockouts Champion in the Rumble, and it was acknowledged on screen 2 months ago. I think people got to stop sleeping on Impact at this point. I mean, I know you would agree.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm having a biased opinion because I'm part of it, but the reality is I try to pay attention to what's going on, and I would argue with anybody, and I get like, you know, some people love the WWE and some people love AEW, and I'm not telling you not to love those things. Sure. You know, like everything in the world now has got to be so divisive and so like you're this or you're that. And, you know, I mean, like I watched Monday Night Raw religiously. I watched WCW Nitro religiously. I watched ECW television out of this broken down bingo hall religiously. I watched USWA shot out of Memphis, Tennessee religiously, Smoky Mountain religiously. I watched it all and consumed it all. And there's no reason wrestling fans can't do that now. I mean, like it's all made for you. You know, it is the truth of it, you know, and choosing one side or the other, you're limiting yourself, you know, you're limiting your options, you're limiting your scope, your vision. And that's just, to me in life, it's the wrong thing to do. Don't close yourself off because of past experiences or because one, you like this thing, so you can't like another. You can like it all. You know, I love the Nashville Predators and the Toronto Maple Leafs, but I watch 200 to 300 hockey games a year because I love it all. Yeah. You know, I don't like, I'm not going to watch the Rangers because I'm a Maple Leafs fan. That's nonsense. And you shouldn't be doing that if you're a wrestling fan. You should be consuming it all.
Yeah, that and the fact that especially with social media, it's a pro and a con as far as the interaction with the sort of stuff goes, but not just not liking the other product. If you don't like it, that's fine. If you don't want to watch it, that's fine.
That's
But like,
fine.
making fun of the fans of the other product, you know what I mean? It just makes no sense. And I feel like it might be worse now than ever. It's very weird.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's a very, very strange thing. And I don't know how we got there. How we're living in this weird thing, but it is the world. The world is just very divisive, especially in North America. You're red or you're blue or you're black or you're white. And I've never looked at anything like that.
Yep.
That's such a closed way of thinking, such a closed way of being, and you're limiting yourself and you're limiting your experiences. You're limiting your joy. Think about what I just said. Mm-hmm. Why would you limit joy because you like one thing and you feel you can't like the other thing? Yeah. It's all made for you. Consume it all.
Yeah, exactly. Just the unnecessary hate and negativity just makes no sense. Like you said, you don't have to like it all, but to dislike what other people, or like actively go out of your way to crap on something that someone else likes.
Behavior.
I don't know.
I feel sad for those people.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not even mad. Like I just feel sad for them. I just shake my head and I'm sad.
Yeah, no, it is what it is. It's just, and we see that in wrestling, it is what it is. But like you said, you got to consume it all. Impact being out there, new episodes every Thursday on Access TV. This new show is tied to Anthem, Game Plus Network. It's all kind of the same umbrella. I mean, this feels like, again, not only the perfect fit for you, and it's an extension of what you were already doing, but having more freedom now. I mean, because you were still doing this stuff when you were in WWE, or not so much?
Yeah. I worked for The Athletic. I wrote, which is crazy to think. I'm a published writer.
That's cool, man.
If you've ever read any of my tweets, I have tons of spelling mistakes. I get so excited and forget to put periods where they need to be. And cool. There's tons of software and editors to take care of all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I was writing for The Athletic and doing a podcast for them. It's a great product. I was really proud to work there. Then the coronavirus hit and they basically got rid of that whole department. Mm-hmm. And, I was a victim of that. I was a victim of that, quote unquote, in the WWE. Was not a fun time to be a working professional, or a person that works in front of a live crowd. But it's fate, man. It's I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I've done tons of things, and there's tons of things on the horizon of me, new obstacles to challenge myself. And that's the biggest thing for me, is like just kind of what's next. Let's move forward, look forward, work on whatever it is that I'm doing, live in that moment, make that the best I can, and move forward from there.
Yeah, I mean, kind of going off that, are there any other obvious goals that you have for yourself, just in general, as far as stuff you want to do in wrestling and in hockey and in talk shows and stuff like that? Anything you're actively working toward right now?
With wrestling, I mean, I just kind of continue to kind of do what I've done forever. And that's, just whatever's given to me, make it the best that I can. I think I'm a pretty decent employee. I think I'm a pretty decent person to work with. In the end, I just want it to be right. That's the only thing that I've ever been worried about. I said it in the promo, and I mean it. I'm not political. I never have been. I'm not going to buddy up to somebody. I'm not going to push someone down. I'm not going to step on someone's back to get over them. I'm not going to do it. My work is going to do my talking, and that's that. And it's a cool, because, if you're good and you do the right things and Impact, you are rewarded. Working with Jay White, that's a huge responsibility. I mean, he's a massive star in the wrestling world, and his first serious big singles match was with me. Yep. And that means that the company says they'll have a great match. People will talk about it. Jay will enjoy it, and Jay will want to work here and want to continue to come back. And he does. He's a professional, and it's such a weird thing. Like you get done a match like that, and I'm in it. I know that it was good. And then people are talking about it, and it's almost like they're surprised. And I was like, this happens to me almost once or twice a year, where I have a match that's longer than 6 or 8 minutes. Like, oh man, Eric Young, he's a really good wrestler. Well, I've been a really good wrestler for 25 years. Yeah. I'm not getting worse. I'm getting better. And it's an interesting thing. And I think because I do other things, right? I don't just wrestle. I talk, and I do these other things in wrestling. So actual physical wrestling has never been my only calling card, but I can still do it. Surprise.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a cool thing to see people react that way. And I take it as a compliment for sure. But the surprise of it is it's always shocking to me. Like, I didn't forget how. Eventually I'll get too old and I will be bad at it, and I'll retire and no one will ever see me again. But that's not anywhere close yet.
Yeah, no, you're nowhere near that point, man. I mean, it's funny looking at it now in 2022. I don't know if Jay White versus Eric Young was a match I ever expected to see in Impact or just in general, but we got it and it was great. Are there any more matches on the horizon that you really want to have with the members of the Impact roster or elsewhere that could come to Impact and you can have that match?
Yeah, I mean the list is long, man. There's a tons of crazy talented dudes.
Yeah.
The top of that being Josh Alexander, a guy that's from Canada, a guy that I wouldn't say that he followed in my footsteps by any means, but I mean, I kind of laid the groundwork for him. I was already working on TV when he was kind of coming into his own and getting himself in shape, and then getting out there and traveling and we've shared locker rooms a lot of places, but we've actually never ever touched. So he's top of the list. Him being world champion obviously is something that would entice me. Guys like Trey Miguel, Steve Macklin.
He's great right now. He's killing it.
Dude, Eddie Edwards is one of my favorite guys to wrestle in the world. I would never be upset. I could wrestle him every day for the rest of my life and be happy with it. Ace Austin, a crazy young and talented guy. It's endless. I mean, like, I'm forgetting somebody for sure, but those are the ones that kind of stick out off the top of my head. And first and foremost, the Briscoes this Saturday. I mean, we've known each other for years. Yep. We've talked and we've always had a pretty decent relationship. I respect the hell out of them and everything they've done, who they are and how different they are and how interesting they are. And I think you could probably say the same thing with them for me. But getting to share a ring with those guys, and we're going to create something special. There is going to be a tag match that people talk about. FTR is a master of doing this, is taking these kind of singular nights and these singular moments and really making tag wrestling something special. Tag wrestling has been special forever. It's so singular. It's not like anything else. There's so many interesting storytelling elements and stuff. It's a really unique challenge, a fun challenge, and working the Briscoes at Under Siege on Saturday is going to be a long time in the running, man. I'm definitely ready to do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to that matchup. Again, another match I never expected to see, Eric Young versus the Briscoes in 2022. It's crazy. I don't know, just with every door that closes, so to speak, like when the Ring of Honor news comes out, and that's like a negative for wrestling as far as them closing their doors 6 months ago or so. And now it turns into a positive, and that we get to see Ring of Honor talent and Impact and an AEW working with you guys and working everywhere else. It's cool, man. Everything kind of happened. I feel like everything happened for a reason, and we're kind of seeing that right now in wrestling, which is super cool to see. But as we wind down here, man, in addition to the hockey show, obviously, and Impact and everything that's going on right now, you mentioned earlier you were a movie buff. I did not know that. I got to know. Well,
oh, yeah.
2 questions before I ask you what your favorite movie is, but are you a Star Wars fan by any chance, or not so much?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, huge Star Wars fan. I grew up on the originals, obviously. Like all the new movies, some more than others.
Yep.
But I like them all. I'm definitely like that. Like, we just had this long thing of people saying, "Oh, I like the originals," and the new ones suck. And this, I don't think anything they put out has been bad. I mean, I think there's some that are better than others, but I've enjoyed every single one. There's elements to each movie that I could do without, and I think some people would probably have a different opinion. And that's what movies are. And that's the same as wrestling. In the end, it's art, it's subjective. And just because it's not for you doesn't make it bad. You just have to accept that. A really good buddy of mine, Jeff Merrick, he does a podcast, a hockey show in Canada, works for Sportsnet, one of the smartest and coolest guys ever. And he said, once he realized that not everything is made for me, I had a much more enriched and beautiful life. Not everything is made for you. And it's okay. It's okay. So yeah, that's for me. Star Wars, massive fan. Have watched, I guess 4, 5, and 6, I guess, is technically what they are.
Yeah,
I've watched,
the originals,
each one of those 20, 30 times in my life. And I've seen all the other ones probably 10 or 15 times. So yeah, wow. massive fan of Star Wars.
That's awesome. I asked because obviously we're talking today on Wednesday, May the 4th. So that's why I bring that up. I was expecting to say you haven't seen a single one. You were going to call it crap or something. So pleasantly surprised that you're a Star Wars fan. We got the Obi-Wan Kenobi show coming out in a couple of weeks, which is super cool.
A buddy of mine works for comicbook.com, and he sent me the trailer a few days ago before anyone else got to see it.
Oh, nice.
It's the benefit of the blue check mark. And full Star Wars boner the entire time. Can't wait.
Just saw this morning, got those connections. That's awesome. What about Marvel? Are you a Marvel fan at all?
Yeah, I mean, still read comic books. Crazy comic book nerd. I don't think I read. I probably read more independent stuff from Boom and like The Boys, like that becoming a series on Amazon. Like I've been telling people about that series of comic books for like 15 years. You
That's
know,
awesome.
like telling people how amazing it is, and they should make a TV show out of it. The books are better. I mean, everyone's going to say that because they're really messed up, and you can't put that on TV. You can't put that on Amazon. But they did a really good job, man. The casting is incredible, and the storytelling is pretty spot on. So yeah, huge comic nerd. I feel like now the world is starting to realize what I've known for 40 years is the comic books are amazing, the stories are amazing, the characters are amazing, and it's not nerdy. It's just storytelling in a different way. And yeah, it's everyone's finally caught up to where I've been at for 40 years. So welcome to the revolution, everyone.
Exactly. Are you seeing Multiverse of Madness when it comes out this weekend or no?
Yeah, I mean, I won't go this weekend, but I'll probably go at some point during this week. I discovered my love for going to movies by myself.
Nice.
Yeah,
very underrated.
Nobody. It's if you haven't done it, do it. You will not be disappointed. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I know you're a little busy on Saturday night, so it might be the wrong day to go do that. But
yeah,
when you go see Saturday. Yeah, it's going to be a busy weekend. But last question for you, Eric: favorite movie of all time?
It's impossible, right? It's like saying, tell me your favorite band. It just depends on my mood. Depends on my mood. I'll go way back. I love the movie Face Off. I don't think anybody shoots more beautiful action sequences, especially gunplay, than John Woo. I had known about him for years through reading stuff online and in magazines, Hard Boiled and all these other movies that were massive hits in Japan and in China. And then him coming over here, he did Hard Target, and it was a complete flop because Van Damme was a crazy person at the time. But doing Mission Impossible 2 and Face Off and all these other, like, it's just gorgeous to watch, and it's so interesting. So Face Off, and I love Nick Cage and John Travolta in that movie. They're both like, I mean, just an insane. Love the first Pirates of the Caribbean.
Classic.
Love Aladdin. Love Toy Story.
Oh,
love
my language Rescuers.
Right now. I mean, the list is a mile long, man. Love Tango and Cash. Love Demolition Man. I mean, we don't have enough time to go through it all. It's I love all movies. I mean, right now, me and my wife we just got done Yellowstone, and we're watching 1883, and that's, if you're not watching those shows, you're missing out. It's a masterclass of storytelling and drama, and they're incredible. You know, spend the $4 on Paramount, binge them over a course of a couple of weeks, and thank me later. They're amazing.
I thought Yellowstone was on Peacock.
The final season they put out on Peacock, but it's a Paramount. Okay. It's a Paramount show.
Oh, okay, interesting. All right, I only heard great things about it. I've heard from like a million people that it was a great show. I have yet to watch it.
Put it on your list.
I definitely will. That'll be the first thing I watch after I'm done watching the next Obi-Wan Kenobi show and all the. There's so much content out there, like you said.
It's a full-time job. When I tore my ACL and I spent 4 months on my couch not being able to move, every Sunday I was like, oh, I'm almost to the end of Netflix. And Monday would come and there'd be 40 new shows.
Yeah.
Watching the new Moon Knight right now, which is incredible.
Awesome. I just watched the finale today. It's a great episode.
Yeah, they're crushing it. Marvel's just crushing it. So
they're crushing it right now. Wrestling's crushing it. Eric Young, you're crushing it right now. We got Impact every Thursday, 8 p.m. on Access TV. Obviously got Dangle Bet Silly every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern time in the Game Plus Network. And this Saturday, Under Siege, Impact World Tag Team title match of Violent by Design versus the Briscoe brothers. Looking forward to all this stuff. EY, congrats on the gig. Congrats on everything else, man. Great talking today. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.